Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. Going to have a look at when next week 10 days for today's video. So we've still got that idea in the model output that we're going to be into a cooler and more unsettled spell of weather starting really today and running over weekend and into sort of next week. And then the question is whether we start to raise high pressure as we go through to the final week to 10 days of May and return back to warmer and drier conditions as well. So that's what we'll be focusing on for today's video. So this will take us to around the 20th of May, but the GFS does extend out beyond that, of course, in its extended range. And so that will take us actually towards the start of the bank holiday weekend, the late May bank holiday weekend. So we're going to begin by having a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from Penn State University. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which have a look in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 85 meters, an area in the absolute high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. But let's extrapolate low pressure, red to high pressure. These are the mean flowcharts for the 7 to 10 day time frame, and we can see what the ECMWF is doing. It looks quite unsettled actually this morning, with below average heights from the Atlantic and running into the UK as well. That's quite a deep trough there around Newfoundland, and that's sending the jet stream through across the Atlantic, indicated by black lines towards us as well. So that's certainly a more unsettled type scenario for the 7 to 10 day time frame. Notice as well all of this red that we've got going on to our north. Quite a lot of northern blocking up here, men. Not usually a very good sign at this time of year, because you'll tend to get a trough underneath it, which is exactly what is going on here. I've got quite a deep trough underneath it, swimming in off the Atlantic and towards the UK. So that is rather cool and unsettled in the 7 to 10 day time frame. The GFS is nowhere near as unsettled as that. So again, we have got a deep trough in the Atlantic, but it's sort of penned in to the southwest of Greenland up here. So it is close to Newfoundland, but it's not really breaking the energy across the Atlantic and into Europe, unlike what we see on the ECMWF this morning. I've also got a large area of above average heights to our northeast. So there is a bit of a blocking signal, but it's more centred towards Scandinavia. And the ridge from the Azores, that's the Azores high just there, that is throwing more of an extension towards us. So although the GFS could be quite unsettled at times, I mean, it's nowhere near as unsettled in that kind of situation as the ECMWF is. So they are in a disagreement actually for the 7 to 10 day time frame. Means of a GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles the next couple of weeks. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average. Looking at Manchester today. So for the next few days, we're going to be rather on the cool side. So going up towards sort of mid-May, that's the 15th day of May, just there. And going up towards then, it looks as though overall we are slightly on the cooler side. A little bit of a warm-up takes place just there, but then again, rather cool really as we go into the sort of 16th to 20th of May. That sort of time frame just there. But we do still see evidence in the extended range of a bit of a warming trend showing up, going above the red line with many of those ensemble members. So that does look a little bit warmer as we're going into this sort of final week to 10 days of May just here. That's in the extended range though, bear in mind, so it is unreliable. We have got this cooler and more unsettled spell of weather, but we've got to get out of the way over the next 10 days up to around there. Although it is a little bit up and down with temperature, but up to around there, the next 10 days, it does look as though it's going to be rather cool and potentially rather unsettled at times as well. Beyond that, we can start looking at the possibility of maybe bringing back high pressure and warmer conditions. Precipitation-wise, now remember this is for Manchester, so it's one of the wetter places in the country, but quite a bit of precipitation really, starting over weekend and going through into next week as well. There's still quite a few precipitation spikes, even in the extended range, as this bit of a warm-up is taking place. So looks as though a little bit uncertain about how much influence high pressure has in that final week to 10 days of May. But again, bear in mind that is in the extended and unreliable time frame of model and of the ensembles. These are the surface ensembles based on the GFS model. So again, looking for Manchester. So again, we've got 20 degrees up here, 10 degrees just there, 0 degrees down there, 30 degrees hot up there. So we're starting off on a relatively cool note now. Temperatures around 12, 13, 14 degrees, something like that. So probably about average, really, for early May in Manchester. But bit on the cool side compared to what we've had recently anyway. Couple of warmer days showing up there around mid-month. Again, that's the 15th of May. Just there before it cools down as we go through to this period, bringing up towards the 20th. And it's not really until around the 20th, but we do see a warming trend still in evidence. So it looks like the ensemble is lifting up to some degree. In fact, by the end of the ensemble, going into that period just there, right at the very end, we do see some ensemble members, albeit they're outliers at the moment, but some ensemble members are getting really very warm as we go into that sort of final week of May. So still the idea is there, cool and rather unsettled for the middle 10 days of May, then possibly going to something warmer and drier in the final, I should say, 10 days of May. Having a look at the, so let's have a look, that's got a bit wrong, so let's just flick that over like that, and we'll have a look at the temperature anomaly. So that's wrong as well, sorry about this. So we're going to have a look at the UK's temperature anomaly for the next week. There it is. So this is going from the 9th through to 17th of May, and it's coming out a little bit cooler than average for the UK, for Ireland and for France as well. So a little bit cooler than average with our temperature anomaly still for the week ahead. And as far as precipitation is concerned, average a little bit wetter than average, indicative of the cooler and more unsettled weather that we've got for the time being. So this is how the GFS is looking for Monday, trying to get a little bit of an extension from the Azores high to our southwest, so maybe a couple of drier days early next week, but then this low pressure comes down from the northwest middle of next week. So this is Wednesday 16th of May, and that does look rather cool and unsettled, especially so for the north. So a couple of warmer days early next week, of dry days, then back to unsettled weather as this trough slinks down across the country through the middle of next week, bringing rather cool and unsettled conditions behind it. We're running up towards day 10, and we're starting to get a bit of an extension from the Azores once again, so a bit of ridging beginning to take place as we run up towards Saturday 19th and Sunday 20th of May. So that by day 10, which is Sunday 20th of May, actually we've got a bit of a ridge of high pressure over Scandinavia. We're trying to extend that in across the UK. So that could be going back to warmer and drier conditions again in the extended range. And that's exactly what happens, actually. This is how things are looking running up towards the end of a GFS run. High pressure returns, takes over the pattern. It's sitting to our north and northeast, bringing in relatively warm air from an east to southeasterly direction. Yes, it could be a little bit showery at times. You might generate a few thundery showers with that sort of scenario. But I think generally it is warmer and drier there as we're going into the final weeks, 10 days to week of May. That's how we finish on Saturday the 26th May, just starting the late spring bank holiday weekend. And by the way, late spring bank holiday updates will begin this weekend. It'll be within the time frame of the GFS model, the late spring bank holiday this weekend. So no sooner have we finished with the last bank holiday, we're almost off and running with our next bank holiday weekend. And then, of course, we won't have any till we get through to the end of August. But that's how things are looking with the latest GFS run by the end of it, by Saturday 26th of May, going into the bank holiday weekend. We're looking pretty good, actually. Set there and quite dry and warm as well. Let's just get the ECMWF together. So that's how we know it's going to be a more unsettled run, of course, because we've already seen the height anomaly flowcharts. So this is how things are looking on Monday. Low pressure quite close to us on Monday, bringing showery conditions, and even on Tuesday it looks rather slack. So at this point, the GFS early next week wants to give us a couple of drier and warmer days, but the ECM looks rather cool and unsettled right from the start, and then we just keep low pressure quite close to the country, keeping things rather unsettled as we run up towards day 10 and get to day 10. Actually, we're in a very unsettled spell of weather. No sign of high pressure building back at all on sunny 20th of May, and still quite a bit of high pressure up to our north. Actually, still a bit of a high pressure blocking type signal around Greenland to our north. So a big split between the two models there, where we end up by the time we get through to day 10. And whilst I think we are going to go back to high pressure and warmer dry conditions in the final week to 10 days of the month, if that ECM is right, if that ECM chart is right for day 10, it's going to take a while to get to high pressure from that. So that will keep unsettled cool weather going further into May. Let's just finish off with the GEM, the Canadian mod, see what that's showing in this sort of 7 to 10 day time frame. So again, early next week looks rather unsettled, to be honest. Maybe a bit drier by Tuesday. Running through next week, high pressure is trying to get going to the south, still keeping low pressure out to the northwest. That's how we finish up by day 10. And it's kind of like an in-between scenario, actually, that between the GFS and the ECM. So that's somewhere in the middle. We do still have quite an influence from low pressure out to the northwest of the country around here. Not as much as we see on the ECMWF, though. And we are seeing ridging building to our south. Again, not as much as the GFS is showing. Doesn't make as much of that ridge by day 10 as the GFS does, but more of it than the ECM. So that's kind of like a blend of the two, really. Somewhere in the middle of the GFS and the ECM. Perhaps that's the most likely scenario by the time we get to day 10. Maybe we will be seeing signs of high pressure building up from the Azores, but possibly might take a little bit too long, a few more days beyond that, to go to a proper settled spell of weather. So the ideas are still at play of what I've been talking about for a while now, which is we've got this cooler and more unsettled interlude to come over the next few days. It's going to take us up to certainly beyond the middle of the month. It's probably going to take us around the 20th of May at least. After that, we will be looking to see if we can get this build of high pressure going from the Azores to take us into a warmer and drier spell again for the closing stages of the month. We can see from the difference between the GFS and the ECM, there's a lot of uncertainty about how quickly any build of high pressure will occur. So at the moment, it's low confidence that this is where things are going to go. And obviously, we'll keep you posted over the next few days. Right, that's your week 10 day update. So thanks for watching. JMA Friday tomorrow. We'll have a month ahead look ahead tomorrow. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.